Hi, good morning, good evening to all. Welcome to our session today. Uh, Today's session, we are talking about digital AI workers. We are going to look into a blueprint for how a digital AI worker model in an organization can enable the organization to reclaim 40% of organizational capacity. I'm Archana Jain, and I am the managing director for Stralin Consulting Services. We are a AI-powered digital transformation organization, and we have been working in digitization for major organizations. Uh, I have been working personally in digitization for the last 2 decades. Currently, I'm pursuing a doctorate in emerging technologies for generative AI for Golden Gate University. A very interesting course and very excited to be a part of it. This initiative, today's session, it's a cornerstone of our Stralin Digital Academy. We move beyond the era of experimental pilots with AI, and we are looking at enabling organizations by establishing an AI-first operating model, transitioning autonomous agents from simple assistants to end-to-end workers. And these workers, they are capable of taking initiative, executing actions where core processes are being challenged and they're being handled differently by the AI workers, and as a part of that in the organization itself. So in today's session, we are going to look into what is a digital AI worker in an organization when we talk about it. Why is it important? What is the organizational mandate, and how is the transition happening? What is the transition vector for it? Then we'll get into looking at an AI worker blueprint. We'll look at a sample case. So we'll talk about AI ops and self-healing technologies, multimodal LLMs, IDP 2.0, generative engineering. We'll look into digital twin of the enterprise, what it is enabling when we talk about digital AI worker, and then security aspects with zero knowledge and federated learning. But then a very important factor, right? If we are having digital AI workers, how is it impacting the human employees, the human component of an organization? And then, of course, the roadmap, how to get there. We have 45 minutes for this session, so we are going to kind of touch upon a few things. We are not going to go into each technology in detail, not possible in 45 minutes. It's not even possible in 3 months to do that, but then technologies are also evolving very fast. But we are going to touch upon these technologies in terms of how they are enabling the digital AI worker in an organization. So when you talk about a worker, it's an employee, a colleague, a teammate. Now, digital AI worker, these are our autonomous teammates with intelligence. So in 2026, we are looking at these digital AI workers being our colleagues with whom we are working. No more it is the rigid automations that used to happen earlier, right? When there was a fixed script of doing stuff. Today, they come with goal-oriented reasoning. So digital workers, they are capable of working on complex tasks with minimal human intervention. And of course, the human intervention depends upon the domain sometimes and what we are trying to accomplish. But these digital AI workers are very capable, and they are making us rethink as to how we should be managing the load in an organization and how the work should be split between a human employee, human worker, and a digital AI worker. And this shift is what is enabling organizations to reclaim 40% of the organizational capacity to do high value tasks or provide high value orchestration of the organization. A very important aspect of how do we maximize our own people to do the best possible jobs that they have actually brought the intelligence to. Why is an organization moving towards it? What is the problem that is there today? Complexity has gone up significantly, right? Today, there is an integration friction. What does that mean? Basically, we see that there is so much of legacy stuff also there in the organization, especially larger organizations are looking at it. There is a huge technical debt, and we are also trying to make sure that we are able to integrate very seamlessly within an organization. So this integration friction is a challenge that is definitely needs to be mitigated as organizations are moving at a very fast pace today. We are also looking to see how we can make sure that our architects and our designers and our experienced people, they are able to provide the value to an organization that will enable us to move faster. With this digital AI worker coming in the loop, we are giving our architects a fleet of agents that they can use, maximize, execute, and enable them to achieve the vision, and that too at the speed of a machine working. So we're talking about machine speed here, right? Because these are digital AI workers. Just imagine, to get your CFO to sign off on your AI budget, for example, you need to now not talk about experimentation anymore. I think we have been talking about experimentation for quite some time now. Now it's where the rubber meets the road, right? We have to talk about how using the AI innovation, AI agents, AI technologies, we will be able to reclaim the capacity of an organization and show much higher value than what we have been able to provide in the last, not even a decade, even last few years also. The challenges are coming in from there. At Stralin, we do have a framework that we use to enable organizations to go through that and bring in these digital AI workers more effectively. We are looking at a framework that consists of three main things: the knowledge, skills, and brains. What does knowledge mean? It is deep documentation of a business logic. What is the knowledge to run the systems, right? We are talking about skills, right? What are the workflows that an agent has to perform end to end without requiring human intervention, right? Moving an agent from being just an assistant to actually a worker who can do their job independently. And of course, the brains, the orchestration layer, your experts, and the guardrails to ensure that everything is working within the required compliance guidelines, safety, security, all aspects of bringing in digitization within an organization. So we're going to take a look at all these aspects now in the next few slides that we are looking at. Bringing in the digital AI worker is causing a transition from the traditional way and organizations were working to moving towards an agentic AI organization. So let's look at the four major criteria here: the human role, the ownership of the task, the success metrics, what should we be measuring, and of course, the governance, right? So just at a very high level, when you think about it, the human role was actually executing stuff in the loop. Now they're on the loop, which means they're orchestrating the entire thing. This is what is enabling us to bring in the 40% capacity reclaimed for innovation and strategic growth. When we talk about task ownership, it was fragmented, manual. You had, all these different ways of doing things. And then tasks had to be handed off, which was not a very seamless process most of the time. We're talking about end-to-end autonomous workers, right? So they can integrate, they can talk to each other. There are so many technologies which are now coming up and evolving and maturing, which are enabling the agents to even communicate with each other seamlessly and make it happen. So here, if you look at the value, it's very significant. We are talking about 3.7 to 12x ROI via the total elimination of process friction. That's a significant improvement in how things will be working in an organization. And they need to start thinking about how to start achieving this ROI through digitization. The success metric, it's very obvious. Instead of measuring your time to complete, now we are looking at time to value. things are like 30% faster in time to market for new products and services, a significant improvement in the time it used to take a idea, a solution, a service to market, right? And the governance has also evolved with the digitization. We're talking about not doing manual sampling anymore, but we're talking about 100% automated auditing. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more as we go through the technologies enabling the digital worker. There are a lot of technologies today, of course, which are enabling the digital AI worker. Some of you may be familiar with some of them, some may be new words to you, but they're all out there today, enabling us to build different type of digital AI workers for different tasks. A lot of specialization, but then a lot of generalization also. And these are working, different technologies come together to enable different aspects of a process, end-to-end process flow. So we are going to take a look at few of these as we look at a sample case study of a service integrator, right? A service integrator, an SI, is a very intense headcount-oriented organization where everything is like people and hours and time to productivity and all that stuff. And now we are talking about this shift going from headcount and hours to autonomous outcomes. So for a high-performing organization, there is a change in how margins will be looked at, measured, evaluated, and also what is the cost that will be incurred, how it will impact lower cost in an organization with the agent to human ratio, right? So if you look at the margin earlier, what was the margin all about? The margin used to be totally measured by it was driven by the head count, the hours, and it is now moving totally into a different format. It is going to be based on your agent density. So productivity, staff utilization will be measured in a very different manner using agent density. And there are organizations out there today, if you look up case study, we have seen that, they have already achieved a 8:1 agent to human ratio. That's a very significant change, right? Now we are talking about exponentially scaling our teams without the linear cost going up, right? So that's these two factors are very significant in an industry which traditionally very people heavy, right? So then there are other challenges that come with headcounts and all. You talk about recruitment cycles and quality and everything. Now here we're talking about digital AI workers that will be trained to do the job that they are doing. We will make sure that they are capable of handling the challenges within the complexity of a job through the knowledge, skills, and brain framework that we have, and enabling them to perform at a much higher speed than what our human workers could do. Again, just imagine the value that the human worker can bring to an organization when they're able to hand off their grunt work to a digital AI worker. So there is a shift happening in this organizational setup, which used to be very people intensive. So let's look at some of the cases or examples of how the SI kind of organization has moved or has been enabled using digital AI worker through the various technologies. When we talk about managed services, right, the predictive aspect of it is very, very important. So we are talking about AI ops and self-healing, predictive propensity models, right? We are moving away from firefighting to fire prevention with the help of setting up digital AI workers. Instead of being reactive, we are talking about being proactive. So we are alerting the digital AI worker in this setup will alert the human workers, or rather it will in fact go ahead and solve a problem, and only where a human intervention is required, they will create an alert for the human worker. right? So here, one of the technology that plays a big role, and I'm just going to talk about the technologies briefly here because we can't get into a lot of detail on it. And there's a lot of technical things that happen in the background when we use these words about the technologies that we're talking about. So it relies on a technology, ubiquitous agent fabric. That's an integrated framework which spans across agent creation, agent operation, and of course, the security aspect of it. It's unifying your operational, analytical, and event streams into a single governed data layer. Governed is a big factor here, right? Because we have these digital AI workers, governance is going to play a much larger role than it was earlier. And it is enabling the AI workers, the agents, to make contextual decisions in real time. So just take an example of a database failure, a very common case study, right? That happens, the case happens. So the digital AI worker or the agent, it won't just send an alert, actually. It will identify the problem. It will initiate a self-healing protocol. That is very important. It will do that from earlier traditional automation and agents. Now we're talking about self-healing protocol. It may reroute traffic, or it may spin off a redundant cloud instance. It can resolve tickets on its own, right? So you will see a lot of tickets at level 1 and level 2 level getting resolved through self-healing by the digital AI worker. When will people get involved? Like, something that could be related to major performance critical issues or any kind of sustainability issues. That's when the managers, the executives would be informed about it, which would require a human intervention or to handle some scenario to reduce the impact to an organization. Everything else can be handled by the digital AI workers. So that is the power of AI ops and predictive propensity models, right? This is where we can already see in an SI kind of organization, the 40% capacity is being reclaimed. And now we can take our expensive engineers from doing the manual tasks and doing more innovation and improving an organization at another level. So now we are talking about really moving the transition vector from doing manual tasks to more value-added tasks. Let's look at another case where we are using multimodal LLMs and IDP 2.0. So RFP process, right? Response for a proposal process. It's a very intense process. I personally have spent hours, days, and nights working on responding to RFPs with a team of experts sitting together, all of us, and working on that. And it's pretty much, you start thinking about, oh, similar RFP was done. How do we get that knowledge? How do we build this RFP and make sure that, we are getting the best possible response put together so we can win an engagement? Here, when you're looking at agentic solution using multimodal LLMs and IDP 2.0, intelligent document processing 2.0 version of it, which is much smarter, they can pretty much, what we would take like a week or 10 days to put together, you can almost say they will do it in 3 minutes, right? Depends upon how structured or how organized your systems are. However, they will read the RFP documents, they will extract requirements, they will build knowledge graphs, and they will look at mapping them together and of our past successful deliveries, and they will generate a very comprehensive proposal. That is amazing. And we have actually used it in some instances, especially when you're looking at doing government-related proposals and all. There is some consistency in how the responses have to be built and how they can be structured, right? And with such a agentic AI solution, it's really a win-win situation to be able to do it. And it really saves an organization so much time. And you are also able to get the knowledge of the organization together to build a much higher quality proposal than what we could have done by even putting our whole team together. And your quoting and also can also be done because they have the knowledge of how a similar quote was developed, right? So everything is coming together in minutes instead of taking like a week or 10 days to get the initial draft done. That's an amazing improvement upon how the institutional memory can be utilized to build a successful proposal. It's business. It's the bread and butter for organizations to be able to write these successful proposals. So very important aspect of bringing in your digital AI workers to help you with this. Another solution that we can look at is generative code factory. We are talking about generative engineering. Some of you may be pretty familiar with it if you have been using it to some extent, code factory model. It's basically, what is generative engineering? It focuses on using glue code that connects your legacy code mainframes and all to the modern architecture of cloud architectures. This is an area where you see a lot of errors because an integration challenge, remember we talked about integration friction, integration challenge, and then the long or very extensive debugging cycles that we have to go through. So the agents are capable of writing the glue code, and then they are also spinning up digital twins to run millions of stress tests. So imagine a system that used to be tested at the very end of a particular initiative or project now is getting done at the very start of an initiative. This was going to save millions of dollars to organizations who are going through these kind of transformation. Because when you find out these problems much later in your development cycle, you are technically spending quite a bit of money to fix feedback and go about. Even using Agile and all, still the impact is pretty significant. So here we are talking about doing these stress tests using digital twins, which is definitely fast pacing the entire thing and moving it up to the start of a project. This is a totally new way of doing things. This has reduced regression testing effort by 40% and reduced or decreased your rework from 25% to 15%, significant industry benchmarks that are visible in the industry already today. There is a reduction in cost per line of integration. We are writing codes faster, and we are writing code that doesn't break, right? So that is also a very big thing. So that whole testing cycle and everything is all being done so much faster. So it's enabling our architects and our designers and our senior members of our team who are the experts in designing systems from actually looking at faulty codes and debugging and taking care of maybe some syntax errors. They are focusing 100% of their time on system design, which is very, very significant. So this kind of an improvement with digital AI worker is what industry is today looking at. It is definitely enabling a very high efficiency here in validation, code writing, and performance. It's all before it's getting close to production. Imagine that. Another case study or another case of a digital AI worker where we have seen major impact is what we are calling the margin guardian, especially when we are talking about SI organization, right? A system integration. What is the biggest challenge that a system integrator might be facing providing services to any organization? Scope creep, right? We are talking about, not being able to track the scope creeps, or until very later on realize that, you have really eaten up your margins significantly because of a scope creep that was not tracked, that was not managed. And it is very difficult to do it manually, to track and manage every scope creep, and also understand the sentiments of a meeting and recognize the scope creep that might be coming about. So when we look at a digital AI worker in this aspect, we definitely see a significant improvement in managing our margins much better. We are talking about looking at the issues and tasks that are being created in various tools, Slack, Jira, whatever tool an organization is using. We can also look at the burn rate in your project management tools. So this particular agent that is in action now, the digital twin of the enterprise, it is enabling to look and read content from the various tools that are using to manage your project, identify what is the scope creep there, and alert the program teams immediately to ensure that that is being captured. They will also use very smart things like sentiment analysis to detect when a team is discussing a feature that was not in the original scope and raise a red flag regarding that. So there are proactive alerts that can be generated using the DTOE, the digital twin of the enterprise. Also, these are integrated with contracts. So integration of smart contracts, they are going to be used very effectively to enable real-time payment. So a lot of this time we have done, and as a program manager, I have done it multiple times. We are sitting down at the end of the month or a particular milestone and then sitting looking at a big checklist and kind of checking off, yeah, this was in scope, this was out of scope. Work is already done, but now we have to account for how does it impact the payment that we have to receive, right? So now with these kind of DTOE agents, we can make sure that, or technology, we can make sure that we are getting real-time payment for functionality that is already implemented and deployed or ready to be deployed. So billing is instant, a big thing for managing our margins, right? Another important aspect now, when we are looking at employing digital AI workers, security becomes a very big factor, right? We should be able to trust the digital AI workers to handle sensitive data. That is very, very important. So it's not just a session when a person joins an organization, you go through these trainings that you have to go through, right? And you get signed off that, yes, this person has completed all our security trainings, all our compliances, NDAs, everything. And now they are ready to access the systems. No, this is much larger than that. And this has to be continuous, right? So we are looking at AI workers that are capable of handling sensitive data. And what we are looking at, the most standard default security architecture is zero knowledge and federated learning. And what is it doing? It is basically, we are looking at, so what is zero knowledge architecture? It is actually working by splitting your encryption keys into multiple fragments. So what does that enable? Basically, it is preventing the service provider or your AI platform from accessing the raw data completely, right? So it is using these split encryption keys into fragments. We are preventing the framework from accessing the raw data all completely and put the whole data together. We are also able to make sure that, they are not able to expose sensitive client information from between projects, right? Or share sensitive client information between projects, because these AI workers could be working on multiple projects or handling data across projects, but this kind of a security setup will not allow them to do that. Banks are a major example here, right? In banks, you cannot use your resources to experiment with the data, right? And that is where federated learning plays a big role. Data remains 100% resident in the original environment. The way it works is the mathematical models are updated or shared to a central aggregator, but the data is staying in the original environment. And these are aligned with all the different banking rules, be it European laws or any other laws that we are looking at. They're all completely compliant with it. So the agents or the digital AI workers, they are being trained to work on a project without having to see the raw transactional data, which is very, very, very significant. So now we are moving away from reactive compliance where something was broken to proactive compliance where they just cannot access that data and they're not being non-compliant with any kind of regulation. So now we are getting trust-first solutions that scale across regulated industry. And banking sectors are a big part of this because there it is very important that we are maintaining all the compliance and secrecy requirements without any gap at any instant of time. So these were some of the technologies that are being used to build your digital AI workers. Again, each technology is pretty complex, and we provide the services to enable these agents to be built within an organization, working within the environment of an organization. And our Stralin Digital Academy enables organizations to learn more about it. However, bringing all the digital AI worker is putting a fear factor in organizations, right? In the people in the organizations. So what are we doing to ensure that the human evolution is a key component of moving towards an agentic AI organization? We are talking about actually making our architects the orchestrators, which is the original roles that they have to be playing instead of spending 70% of their time doing grunt work, right? So now they're able to spend 100% of their time on building systems which are value added for the organization, not looking at debugging or looking at the juniors making some syntax error and why the system broke, right? They have now digital AI workers as their fleet to work on those things. However, you also have junior staff. And what is the role that junior staff can play with their qualifications and their skills and the knowledge that they are building as they are becoming part of an organization? They can definitely play a much larger role as prompt architects or agent auditors, right? Where they are able to manage sectors of digital workers working on certain processes and add value over there. And there's a lot more depth to these roles besides just looking at, a checklist of what the digital AI workers are doing, which is not required anyway, right? So there is a significant role in an organization that the junior staff can play, and they can pivot their role towards these value-added work. Management shift is very, very significant now, right? The focus on ethics, risks, and ensuring that the autonomous operations are working without causing any issues in a larger global industry has to become a primary focus. So ethics, governance, risk management, and all, they're all taking a new shape now. They have always been there, but now with the digital AI worker, the compliance and all, they are becoming much larger in aspect, and we cannot afford to have any mistakes by having the wrong things happening in the organization and no one knowing about it, right? So how do you put your guardrails and all? So those aspects are now what is the changes that an organization has to go through for the organization people workers, right from the top level to your most junior staff. And they are all a critical aspect of an organization. We are not ready to let go of our people. We need our workforce. But a very significant change will happen in the middle 60% of our workforce, the managers of machines. That's what they are being called now, managers of machine. And this is what is going to enable us or recover the 40% capacity that we would like an organization to reclaim now, given the complexity that they have gone through. These are some of the risks and the changes that we are looking at in terms of with a digital AI or an agentic AI organization, what is going to have. So now it is not just AI taking over. The risk is about algorithmic drift. That is the new technical debt, right? If we don't monitor our agents, they will decay. AI models can decay over time as the external data environment change. So change is constant, right? So everything is changing, which means the AI agents can decay, which can result in unintended deviations from the established governance practices. And this is called an AI-induced drift, right? So imagine, things are changing. So we want to make sure that, the AI agents that are working are not decaying and they are being evolved. So there are other stuff like, the model health audit to ensure that we have alignment with the information governance frameworks, right? That is equally important. We have financial or compliance as a code. When we talk about compliance gaps and all, we are talking about drifting from the regulatory frameworks and bringing in the real-time compliance as a code guardrail. And then the financial over autonomy, we have to make sure that high spend decisions without oversight, right? That is not going to happen. So the double signature policy for a certain number, we have just given a 50K, but it can be any number that an organization feels significant for them, where the high spend decisions will not happen without oversight. So we need to make sure that, the new risks that are coming in with digitized workforce working along with the human workforce are also being brought in. And there are new best practices now which are coming up, and they require a central registry of all AI tools and agents that we use with a one-click deployment of their pre-configured security policies. So it is a very important aspect, cannot be ignored when you are moving towards digitization with digital AI workers working pretty independently. We do have a roadmap for the blueprint, which is very critical to make it happen, right? We want to make sure that there is continuous capabilities getting launched. So we have a 30, 60, 90-day roadmap where we talk about pilots in the 30 days, one efficiency, one growth pilot to find high value, low complexity wins. Then we have the 60-day where we do the harden, where we survive. We do the dip by hardening knowledge bases and repairing documentation, right? So we move from 100% human review to 50% autonomy. So we are moving towards some autonomy, but not still 100%. And then we talk about the 90 day, 60 to 90 day, where we are marking our successes. We are using win wires. We are reinvesting the reclaimed capacity into the new expansions and new workers. So now we are making the change to move away from human doing the grunt work to AI digital workers coming in. So any firm that has to succeed in 2026, they have to operate at the speed of signal. Things are moving too fast. Even when you are doing papers in your colleges and schools and all as part of any kind of certification or degrees that you might still be pursuing, you can see that by the time you identify a topic, some solution has already come up for that topic. So you are constantly evolving those topics as well. So things are moving fast. We got to stay on top of it, and we got to make sure that, we are staying ahead of the curve. So 30, 60, 90 day is a good benchmark to move forward with. So that kind of is our blueprint and how to ensure that an organization is capable of handling a digital AI worker. What kind of technologies are critical to bring in the digital AI worker work seamlessly in an organization? And what kind of a roadmap is required to ensure that we are constantly in the move and enabling the organization to stay on top of it and bringing in the changes and bringing our agents to be more effective as the workers are coming in, and moving our employees to being more value added and reclaiming that 40% productivity and improvement that we want in an organization. So now we are open for any questions. If anybody has any questions, would be happy to take them up. All right. Since there are no questions, I hope you all enjoyed the session. And Would be happy for you to connect with us. Our website is there, stralin.com. And you can go to our website, drop a question if you have about this session or anything else that we do, and we would be happy to answer them.